Boom, boom, boom. The throbbing in my skull wouldn't cease. Over and over again, a rhythmic pounding of something I couldn't place continuously hit the side of my head. The sound was unforgiving and it was driving me mad. I felt as though I was being slapped over and over. Each hit against my person only intensified the unbearable pain I was experiencing. What felt like hours must have only lasted a few minutes, as my torment was ended when the blackness that surrounded me was replaced with a blinding light. It took a significant amount of strength to open my eyes, which seemed to have been glued shut for an eternity. Once my eyes finally opened, I realized the cause of my discomfort. Someone in medical scrubs was shining a light in my direction. I made eye contact with them and was ready to open my mouth with a barrage of questions about my situation, but I never got the chance. The person, seeming satisfied with my state, nodded and left the room. I was still confused, but this moment allowed me to collect my thoughts. I was in a cold, sterile white room. This room must be in a hospital. As my gaze traveled around the space, I noticed that my left arm was connected to a machine. I would have guessed the contraption were a drip IV if not for the fact that a pink liquid flowed from a tube connected to a large tank mounted to the wall. Aside from the strange contraption, the rest of the room was relatively normal. A standard twin bed, a table, a cupboard, sink, and a large cabinet were the only pieces of furniture in the room I could see. There might have been more, but my neck was strangely stiff and hurt to rotate. From what I could see of my body, I didn't appear to be injured. That still didn't clue me in to the reason I was staying in a hospital. My right hand began playing with the nightgown I was wearing. My fingers played with the hem of the large shirt, and I trailed my touch further up my body. I felt strange. A sudden itch behind my ear caused me to scratch, and it took me a few moments to realize I was touching bandages. My forehead, scalp, and neck were all covered in bandages. I didn't have a single strand of hair on my head either. Had I just come out of brain surgery? That might explain why my head was shaved. My thoughts were interrupted when a different person walked into my room. The man, who I assumed was a nurse, placed a stack of papers on the table next to me and promptly left the room. What I thought would be medical forms turned out to be a series of envelopes all addressed to me. My name was neatly printed on the back of each envelope along with the name of the sender. I looked through the mail one by one, reading the names of the senders. Mom, Dad, Addie, Grandpa, Joseph, and Liz. I read through the letters one by one. Each time I finished reading, I folded them up one by one. All I could do was sit in my bed dumbfounded. According to these pieces of paper I held, I had been in a car accident. My brain had been salvaged, so my family held out hope that one day I'd be able to live again. My mother and father told me they loved me. My siblings told me to have a good life. And my grandfather told me to make new precious memories if I ever read his letter. Everyone I loved and knew were gone. My hands gripped the papers tightly, fists almost balling. I was sure I would have ripped these papers if they weren't so important. My knuckles were reaching the point of turning white, and that's when I noticed something else. My skin, which had always been pale, almost ghostly, was now a light shade of olive. Everyone I knew and loved is gone, and I'm gone too. I feel like I'm about to scream. I was supposed to be dead. I wasn't foolish enough to believe I'd get a second chance at life, yet here I am. My thoughts and feelings were in disarray. Whose body was this? Did they die so I could live? Why am I still alive? I screamed. I screamed until my throat went numb and I couldn't scream anymore. The two hall nurses stood in the doorway and waited for me to settle down before they entered. In the blink of an eye, I was disconnected from the machine, placed in a wheelchair, and was moving down the corridor. I was given vague instructions about what would happen in the next week to ensure a swift recovery. My ears listened, and my head nodded along in affirmation, but my mind was blank. I was moved back to my room and was allowed to walk around before it would be time for bed. Alone once more, I sat and contemplated. My family's wish for me had come true. I was alive, but they were gone. The situation I was in felt like a dream. I looked at my hand again. Was this person me? The next few weeks flew by. The pink fluid was the life support that had kept me fed through surgery. My doctors had me go through physical therapy to regain strength and get accustomed to my new body. When I finally got the nerve to ask where my new body had come from, I was informed that it had been an inmate who had previously been on death row. The response kept me from asking any more questions. 100 years in the future, and I still found myself riding on the bus to my temporary home, a small apartment on site at the hospital where I was supposed to live for the next few months. It gave me some time to figure myself out. After being asleep for 100 years, I was alive, but I didn't have any will to survive. Day after day, I found myself slowly sleepwalking through. My life was stripped of everything I knew. I continued living on as if missing a gear. If I keep going on like this, I'm sure I'll disappear. This is not my body, these are not my hands, and this is not my face. I exist on in someone else's place. I'm a parasite eating away at someone else's existence. I'm living alone without any assistance. It would be a dream to go back to being the real me, but would I really like the person I turned out to be? It's straightforward to wish for something to come true, but would I really want to see that wish through? Nobody needs me in this world like I am now. Maybe one day, somebody will see me somehow. I understand that my life will end if I don't learn to live for myself and keep trying to pretend. My soul is mine, but this body is not. Living will be harder than I thought. A new fate. It was too much to process. My heart rate was quickening and my chest was tight. My family was gone. The tears came in rapid succession and my hands tore at the fabric of my shirt. Where does one go once they have lost everything? My parents guided me, my siblings made life fun, and my grandfather always gave the right advice. I had none of that now, and the life I'd known was gone. Amidst all this grief, I was also grateful to my family for giving me a second chance at life. I was going to make them proud. To do this, I had to adapt to my new life. I started by learning how society worked. 100 years in the future, humanity recycled everything, absolutely everything, in the name of conservation. I was the owner of a recycled body. Prisoners who committed crimes worthy of death were no longer executed. Instead, they were injected with a serum that shut down their brains. Once the brain was removed, the body was given to a new host. This body's previous owner had set a building on fire. It was an act of revenge despite his former employer, but the flames nearly killed half of the workforce. I now inhabit this person's body. I wore his face, spoke using his voice, felt things through his touch, yet my thoughts and feelings were my own. This body and I were building a relationship on compromise. We were getting to know each other and how to operate as one unit. It was like I was the foreign pilot of a vehicle that could drive itself. Muscle memory was one of the hardest things to change. The previous occupant was left-handed, while I am right-handed. This body didn't seem to know which hand to use for the longest time. I was an awkward individual who wrote with both hands. I get strange glances every once in a while. Do people look at me like a criminal? This too has also become part of my daily routine. As I learn more about this world, I also learn more about myself. His fears, his pains, his emotions, they're all mine now. No one else can take these away from me. I might be in someone else's body, but I'm still me. The person whom I see before me may look like a stranger, but soon enough, I will be myself. I feel like a crab. My old shell has been destroyed, so I was forced to seek out another. My body may be different, but my thoughts and feelings are the same. I want to learn more about this world. I want to learn more about myself. I want to learn more about the man whose life is now mine. Am I selfish? No, it's not selfish to want to discover oneself. My family put all their hopes into my being able to continue at some point. So if or when I see them again, I want to do them proud, to tell them I took full advantage of this chance they gave me, and that I lived my life to the fullest. I'm going to live on and live until I can't live anymore. Living is something I always took for granted before, didn't I? I was reckless. Things were there simply to please me, for me to use. I used my mouth to eat, my eyes to see, my hands to touch, my ears to hear, and my nose to smell. My senses came second nature to me, the same way senses come as second nature to anyone. Yet now, in this new body, I find myself counting each breath I take, feeling the way my heart pumps blood around my body, savoring the way food tastes on my tongue, the way clothes feel against my skin. The feeling of being in a new body is a feeling of being reborn. I am an adult in mind, but an infant in body. Each time I experience something, anything, the breeze as I walk outside, the water falling against my back as I take a shower, or the sounds of cars as they drive by, I feel like both a wise old man who is fondly recalling events of his past and like a small child who is seeing the wonders of this vast world for the first time. In school, as a child, we are taught to be compassionate, to be able to place ourselves in someone else's shoes. Now that I am permanently fixed in this position, I feel like I'm finally able to understand what my teachers must have meant. Practicing empathy and looking at the world from a different point of view is all I seem to be able to do now. It's nice being